So there you have it, folks. My Licorice is Alive with My One and Only Love, written way back in 1953 by the songwriting team of Guy Woods and Robert Mellon. Vocalists and instrumentalists have recorded it, including the great Nancy Wilson and Ella Fitzgerald and Horace Silver and that great guitarist Grant Green. But the Desert Island version, meaning the must-have no matter what version, is the version Johnny Hartman and John Coltrane recorded in 1963. If you don't have that album, John Coltrane and Johnny Hartman, go get it now. Download it, steal it, just get it. You haven't lived till you've heard it. Hello, friends, countrymen, and subscribers. Welcome to another installment of Rebel Without Applause, coming to you from my nutshell of infinite space over which I am king, otherwise known as my TSA, that is my television studio apartment right here in the Wood of the Holly under the sign overlooking the Co-19 addled post-apocalyptic paradisical land of law. Now, I've renamed this little nutshell from a movie studio apartment to a television studio apartment because I'm doing Facebook Live jazz and joke shows called Licorice Live almost every night around 8 p.m. from this little nutshell on Facebook. So check it out, okay? It's called Licorice Live. So as the days have drifted into weeks and the weeks have grinded into months, I'm losing track of time. My only clues are the change of season because things are heating up. The nights that were once cool and refreshing have turned warm. My fan is on and my door is open, and I'm doing my best to stay cool body-wise and mind-wise. My new mantra, adapt and survive, survive and adapt. For my part, folks, I'm isolated here in my nutshell of infinite space. By that I mean not only my apartment, but also my brain, because that is what our brains are. Little nutshells of infinite space over which we are all kings. At least that's what Hamlet said in Act 2, Scene 2, but that's another subject, and I'm not going to go there, at least in this episode. Anyway, but for a few hikes up to my secret hang under a grove of oak trees in the Holly Hills and my masked forays into the ethnic markets below, my life has been pretty much on lockdown. Virus-wise, as far as I know, I think, I pray, I'm free, I feel good. I can breathe deeply. I could hike up the hills and hold my breath underwater easily across the pond-sized pool that sits below my television studio apartment window. Food-wise, my fridge is stocked, and I'm eating well, probably better than I ever have before. No more restaurants, no more takeout orders, pizza, forget about it. I'm channeling my inner Anthony Bourdain and coming up with cool versions of Vietnamese pho, Japanese shabu-shabu, southern fried catfish, blackened Arctic char, stir-fried tofu with bean sprouts and snow peas and salted edamame. And the other night I made Cornish game hen prepared Moroccan style in my clay tagine over a mesquite fire. And as always, with every meal, rice. Normally, I take a scoop out of my 10-pound basmati bag, which I scored in my fave Indian market, and then I boil it in coconut milk with a dash of satay powder, and that usually balances out every meal. Now, for breakfast, it's always a roti, which is an Indian-style crepe with a fried egg off of my cast-iron skillet, and then maybe some thinly sliced taro, which, if you don't know, taro is a Polynesian root. It's the same substance out of which they make poi. But in my case, I slice it very thinly, and then I fry it in grapeseed oil, then sprinkle with cinnamon and powdered sugar. Then I dip my little crispy confection in chai tea, and I'm in my own kind of Epicurean heaven. Other than that, well, I'm basically dealing with all the brand new frustrations of daily life, the most horrible of which is that the facial recognition feature on my brand new iPhone, it doesn't recognize me when I'm wearing a mask. Now, that's something that the folks up in the Apple Genius Bar didn't account for. My phone just looks back at me and goes, "Who the fuck are you?" And as far as sex, for us single folk, that has been wiped out totally. I remember back in the good old days when folks were dying of AIDS, you just had to worry about who someone slept with. Now you have to worry about if someone sneezed in the aisle next to them in the supermarket 10 days ago. Tough time, folks. Tough times. But we'll get through this. I'm basically channeling my inner Anne Frank. Like Anne, I'm cloistered in a small space, and like that heroic young girl, I'm trying to stay busy and optimistic, but instead of a diary, which Anne had, I have a podcast, and fortunately for myself, I'm only hiding from a virus, not Nazis and Gestapo goons who are desperate to gas my Jewish ass. By the way, and here's an aside, I am relatively sure that I am a relative Anne Frank. Now, how can I say that? Well, firstly, the first clue I ever got, in the extant photos, little young Anne Frank looks incredibly, almost scarily similar to the photos of my mother at the same age. It's incredible. And then some time ago, I also learned that Anne's grandfather was from the same small village in Germany as my grandfather, Frederick. Now, Frederick was my mother's father, who we affectionately called Papa Brunner. Now, Frederick was a buttoned-down, severe sort of fellow, probably forever traumatized by service in the German cavalry in World War I, and then the nightmare of National Socialism and the Holocaust, from which he fled first to England and then New York, fortunately with my mother. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. And the village that my grandfather came from in Germany was called Landau, which is located near the French border in the wine-growing area known historically as the Palatinate. And most of the Jewish folk who lived there were wine merchants going way back to the Roman times. Anyway, Landau had a very small but stable Jewish population until the Republicans, the Nazis seized power. So I'm making the rather educated, slightly half-assed guess that the lovely Anne Frank is a long-lost, 3 times removed cousin of a sort. Surely some fleck of her DNA resides also in me, and maybe some of that DNA will help me get through this. We'll see. Either way, I'm good. I'm thinking, I probably should get tested. I'm not sure what form the test will take. My preference would be in writing. I could do a true, false, or multiple choice, or I'm a good writer. I could do an essay, whatever. But if they insist, I'll do it. I'm willing to take that swab up my nose. If not for my own benefit, then at least for the speck of data my test will offer up to the general picture. And it's with a detailed general picture of the population that we can design a science-based way forward out of this mess. Testing and distancing, knowledge and power. Testing and distancing, knowledge and power. That's the path to victory. Okay, I've tried to stay focused on the one showbiz gig that is still alive and well, and that's, you guessed it, this, podcasting. Me, myself, and this microphone are breaking it down any which way we can, sometimes with interviews, and today I'm taking it solo. And during these lonely, interminable evenings, I'm also performing my Licorice live shows on Facebook with my clarinet in hand. I've been kicking it around jazz-wise and joke-wise, and for an hour or so, I feel okay. Old friends from high school or surf bras from Debut drop in and gift me lovely floating emojis that feed my soul like water to a dry sponge. And as those hearts and smiley faces and thumbs up float up the screen of my iPhone, everything scary and sad in this world seems to fade into nothingness. Other than that, I have not been motivated to write a new screenplay or polish any one of my older ones, because what the hell? Until there's a vaccine out there and we get to something close to herd immunity, I'm not seeing anything resembling TV or movie production. I think they're just going to have to rewrite the song, "There's no business like show business." They're going to have to rewrite it to, "There's no business in show business." It ain't happening, not for a while at least. But whatever. For the time being, at least, all those screenplays I've written are just going to have to collect dust on my hard drive. Who knows? Maybe their day will come, or maybe not. And for safety's sake, folks, I have vacated the Uberverse. No more shuttling folks across La La Land, not feeling good about sharing my car with folks I don't know. One passenger with hiccups, and who knows, a week later I could be on a ventilator. Not sacrificing my life so some jerk-off in Silicon Valley can cash in his stock options. Not happening. Still, I'm trying to imagine what life will look like as we tread ever so carefully into this new world order. Will life ever resemble what it was? Well, if you're an animal or a fish or a bird, things have never been better. I mean, they're all getting a massive reprieve from all the hunting and killing and harvesting and human hassling. But for us bipedal Homo sapiens, we humans, it's going to probably take a while before things get back to anything resembling what they were. I mean, over time, most viruses drift from the killer variety into something more manageable, like SARS and AIDS and the Spanish flu 100 years ago. COVID-19 will recede into acceptable numbers and eventually join the ranks of all the other pathogens, killer bacteria, and cancers that can take an otherwise healthy and happy human and deliver him 6 feet under. I just hope I'm around when that happens. I did notice that up in Ventura County, they're starting to open up the beaches. Breaks are crowded with wave-starved surfers. I'm not sure if that's progress or just stupidity. I'm thinking maybe they can fashion some kind of neoprene mask for us surfers, slip it right over our face and nose. Nah, it probably won't work. You can't breathe through neoprene. Well, they'll figure something out. In the meantime, my quiver of surfboards are high and dry in my garage. The good news is all the moisture is dried out of them, so when I do get in the water, those boards will be extra, extra buoyant. Now, I did hear that over in Georgia, you can now get a haircut or a massage. So all those rednecks over there can sharpen up their mullets. But for the massages, I am very sad to say they're still not allowing happy endings, which is too bad because now more than ever, folks, we need happy endings. That's the least they can do if they're going to allow our red state Confederate cousins to be the canaries in the COVID coal mines. If their death rates don't spike, maybe we can all get massages again, preferably with happy endings. Actually, I prefer my happy ending in the beginning, but, that's just me. I also saw where the mayor of Las Vegas is ready and poised to reopen the casinos. And when they do open those casinos, they'll introduce a brand new game of chance to the casino floor. It's called Russian roulette. Yeah, that's right, folks. Talk about high stakes. Yowza. Whew, that's a scary game. See, folks, there are two viruses at work in our country right now. First, there's the COVID-19 virus, and then there's this other super-duper Lysol-resistant killer virus that no one really wants to talk about. And that virus is ignorance. And when you put them together, COVID-19 and the ignorance virus, when you put those two side by side, you are looking at a nuclear-scaled catastrophe. But let's not go there. It's too depressing to think about. Let's turn to something more mundane and manageable like my comedy career, which for the foreseeable future seems like it is definitely over. Actually, it was probably over before this thing hit. I was just too stubborn to face that inconvenient truth, whatever. But if there is one silver lining, at least now I don't feel so bad about it. I don't have to drive by the Comedy Store and the Laugh Factory or the Improv and be reminded by the billboards, the marquees, that, alas, I'm not booked. I'm not on the show because, hey, there are no shows. Everybody's stand-up career is on hold. I'm guessing that the last social venue that will reopen will be comedy venues. I can't imagine that folks will want to crowd into enclosed spaces and sit there while everyone around them laughed their asses off. What is laughter? Laughter is the biological function whereby folks projectile vomit Co-19 pellets out into the ether. I know they say laughter is the best medicine. No, not now. Laughter in a crowded room is probably the most toxic thing you can expose yourself to until at least there's a workable vaccine. And when the vaccine comes, and I'm sorry to say this to my radical Shiite anti-vax friends, when the vax does come, if you want to go to a restaurant or a concert or a basketball game or even to an anti-vax rally, you're going to have to show a little COVID V chip on your driver's license that proved you got the vaccine in order for you to actually attend a rally to protest against the vaccine. That's the world we're looking at for sure. Now, for my mental health, what have I done? I have yanked the MSNBC IV out of my forearm. I've bade a polite and affectionate goodbye to Rachel and her crew. But most importantly, I have blocked the bloviating imbecile, the PVP, by that I mean Putin's vice president, from any and all access to my brain. Truth be told, he's a fucking cancer to my consciousness, and to stay sane and balanced, that dude is fucking blocked. You get it? The brat boy billionaire gets no entry. Now, having said that, this is a massive challenge because that predator in chief is still hogging up the airwaves, the internet bandwidth, and column space. And whatever comic value he might have once had has long since outlived itself. It's like watching old episodes of The Three Stooges after the millionth rerun. That shit ain't funny. So I have tuned him out. Yeah, and the current viral calamity has rendered all his previous crimes quaint. The Russian fix, the Ukraine deal, and so much more now seems almost benign when we compare it to the current malfeasance. Now the major question for me is if he will be removed by the ballot box or federal marshals. I'm thinking, I'm hoping, I'm praying that the ballot box first, then the federal marshals, because if there is one last molecule of justice or karma left in the universe when the PVP leaves the White House, he should get a one-way ticket to the big house. Hopefully to that Supermax cave in Colorado, or if they get him in New York, they can send him to that big house on the Hudson up in Ossining, otherwise known as Sing Sing. Hopefully they'll give him 20,000 years, like the title in that Warner Brothers movie, 20,000 Years in Sing Sing, which starred Spencer Tracy and Bette Davis and was directed by Michael Curtiz, who was a brilliant Hungarian director and later directed Casablanca. But I'm getting too far into the weeds on that one. Let me close with this, because we do have an election coming up. I spent some serious time in Iowa and South Carolina following the other candidates. And my advice to Joe, I'm a good guy Biden, is this. Being a good guy ain't going to be good enough. Get yourself a friggin' team around you fast. Pay the debt you owe to the black folk who saved your white ass in South Carolina. Now, my pick is the obvious one. Kamala Harris is VP. She's a pit bull and can be an attack dog when necessary. She's a senator. She's been vetted. She's a she and she's black or something close to black. Then don't wait for the election and the transition. Pick a skeleton cabinet now or this summer at the latest. Here's my list. Romney as Secretary of State. That'll drive the PVP batshit. Then pick Elizabeth Warren as Secretary of Treasury. That'll give all those pissed off Bernie bras something to cheer about. And then, how about Pete Buttigieg as Secretary of Health and Human Services, or maybe Veteran Affairs? Then get that lady down in Georgia. What's her name? The one who got ripped off for governor. Damn, what's her name? Oh, yeah. Stacey Abrams. Appoint her head of Homeland Security. My point is, Joe, you need to surround yourself with a team. Think the Bulls of the 90s. And Joe, your captain or the coach or the point guard or the president, whatever you want, just surround yourself with a team and do it now. And here's a slogan if you need one. Competency is coming. So, folks, that's my final word for now, at least. Next week, I'll probably have more to say. Oh, yeah, and don't forget, check out my Licorice Live show on Facebook. Until next time, namaste, shalom, and aloha. Namashaloha.